Okay, good afternoon and welcome to the regular meeting of the San Mateo County Harbor District Board of Commissioners on July 21st at 1:01 p.m. If I could have a roll call, please, Melanie, I'd like to convene the meeting.
Yep, hold on a moment. I'm having a problem.
That's okay. I mean, can we have Tricia just do the roll call? Is that possible?
Okay. No, I'll go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Chang-Crawley?
Present.
Commissioner Ryring?
Present.
Commissioner Matoush?
Present.
Commissioner Zemke?
Present.
Great, we have a quorum. And I will now I'll move to item B1, which is public comments. So this is for members of the public who would like to address the Board of Commissioners for items that are not on the agenda. I don't,
oh. Looks like Johnny Chandler has his hand raised.
Yes, so, okay, please, Mr. Chandler. This is for items that are not on the agenda.
I'm sorry to do this. I was trying to get on and I don't see myself. It looks like my options to be on video are disabled. I'm familiar with Zoom, but don't seem to be having an option. So I'm wondering if there's a setting in the meeting where I'm not being allowed to do that. Sorry for that question.
I believe the problem is on your end.
Okay.
We see you fine.
You do? Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Sorry. Thank you.
So if you'd like to make a public comment, you may do so now.
I would just thank all the commissioners for their efforts. I appreciate your public service and look forward to the meeting today.
Thank you. And I see Mr. John Olam.
Why don't I see any?
Hello, commissioners. Am I on?
You are?
Yeah, it's working today. Great. I'd like for you to pull item 5 from the consent agenda. And that should do it. Thanks.
Virginia, you're on mute.
Sorry. I'm going to close public comment now and go to item C, which is the consent calendar. I know that Commissioner Zemke wanted to pull some items.
Yes, I'd like to pull items 8, 9, and 10, if I could. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other items that commissioners would like to be pulled? Okay, so is there a motion to approve the consent calendar for items 1 through 7?
I will so move.
President Chang-Crawley, I think that John Olam wanted to speak to item 5, so you could either let him speak to that or pull it from the consent.
I'd be happy to let him speak to that item. Mr. Olam?
This is not how you typically run things. You usually run your items that are pulled later. I'm working today, so you're making it very difficult. But that's probably the point. At any rate, you'll notice in item 5 that the Harbor District ran out of money and was unable to continue applying for grants to fix Johnson Pier. As you know, Johnson Pier is in pretty bad shape. The end of it has cracked supports. It's nearing its end of life, and if you guys don't do something about it, there's going to be a horrible accident out there. So what apparently happened was you guys are counting on grants to fix all this, but you had to stop applying for grants because you'd overcommitted to projects that we're taking all your money. And then there was an excuse about COVID, which we all know has had very little effect on the Harbor District when compared to other public entities. So I would like you to discuss why was it that we needed to turn off the grant funding mechanisms? When are they going to get turned back on? And is there any hope for getting any repairs at Johnson Pier other than obtaining a grant? And Virginia, please stick to the rules that you set for the board. Mr. Zemke is going to pull his up later on this afternoon. I would have preferred to have spoken at the same time. I've got to go back to work. Thanks.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the consent calendar? If there's no further discussion, I'd like a roll call, please, Melanie. This is to approve the consent calendar items 1 through 7.
Commissioner Ryring?
Aye.
Commissioner Mateusz?
Okay. Aye for everything except number 2. I'm going to abstain because I wasn't at that meeting.
Commissioner Zemke?
Aye.
President Chiancarelli?
Aye. So that motion carries. So now we're at the regular portion of our agenda. And so Melanie, is there any way to mute people who had not muted themselves from members of the public? Because this is the second time this has happened, and it's just very distracting to
Yes,
the board members while we're trying to do the public's business.
I just muted him.
Thank you. So going to the regular agenda right now, in the spirit of trying to get all the business done from the consent calendar, I would like to take items 8, 9, and 10 right now and move number 14 up to the head of to the beginning of the discussion items. So we'll just take them in numerical order, starting with number 8. And I think, Mr. Moran, if you would like to start off, and I think you're going to probably be giving the report for all of these items. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, if you wouldn't mind starting with number 8, that'd be great.
Very well. Consent item number 8 is board consider the commercial activity permit for Gianna's boat at Oyster Point Marina until December 31, 2021, and authorize the general manager to execute the commercial activity permit. The permit applicant is requesting approval to conduct business as an operator of an undocumented passenger vessel at Oyster Point Marina. The district ordinance allows up to 6 OUPV charter vessels at each facility at any given time. There are currently 2 OUPV permits at Oyster Point, leaving space for an additional 4, which we do not have requests for at present. Pursuant to the terms and conditions of this cap, permittee will be allowed to charter the vessel Gianni's, owned and insured by permittee, between the hours of 6 a.m. and 7 p.m., 7 days a week, with up to 6 customers. No overnight stays will be allowed. Permittee has already paid the application fee and will be required to pay a deposit and passenger fees as adjusted annually. Customers will park in designated public parking places. Applicant is currently a Oyster Point Marina tenant and will meet customers at the dock and gate and accompany them to the vessel, ensuring social distancing. Applicant will adhere to all county and state guidelines for COVID-19 safety as is included in detailed charter vessel operations plan consistent with those guidelines. Customer will not be provided tenant dock gate or restroom keys. The permittee will be responsible for keeping the area used clean and ensure no potential environmental hazards occur. Staff recommends the board approve the commercial activity permit for Gianni's boat at Oyster Point Marina until December 31, 2021, and authorize the general manager to execute the commercial activity permit.
Thank you. Any commissioner discussion? Bill, I think you pulled this off.
Yeah, just a question, since I'm still kind of new at this, just would like to refresh my memory on the difference between inspected passenger vessels and undocumented passenger vessels.
The undocumented vessels are vessels that that a U.S. Coast Guard captain that has a 6-pack license, meaning that his license is a 50-ton Coast Guard license that allows him to take up to 6 paying passengers. And any vessel that takes more than 6 paying passengers is required to be U.S. Coast Guard documented and inspected.
Oh, okay. I figured it was something like that. Just wanted a little clarification. I assume that it's a typo in the staff report that it's not Pillar Point Harbor where they're currently a tenant, and it's actually Oyster Point.
That's accurate, yeah.
Okay.
Right, so we're making a motion for Oyster Point, not Pillar Point, Bill.
Right.
Okay.
Good. So I have no other questions. I can make a motion to approve consent calendar item number 8.
I'll second that.
Okay. So there is a motion and a second, and so the discussion for commissioners is still open before I take public comment. I do see a hand raised. So are there any other commissioners who would like to make who would like to discuss this item? And I can go to public comment too, if you'd like to, if you prefer. In fact, why don't I do that? Because I do see a hand raised by a Mr. Johnny Chandler. I'm opening up the public comment period for item number 8. Mr. Chandler?
Yes, I'll address this to Director Moore, and I assume he's somewhat familiar with federal regulation regarding Coast Guard captain's licenses. Do you understand, or can you explain to me and the board the requirements for somebody to operate a vessel for hire, including up to a jet ski?
I'm sorry, you broke up. I didn't catch the question.
I'm sorry.
So Mr. Chandler, you've got, Melanie, can you turn off the clock for a second? So Mr. Chandler, there's a lot of feedback going, so it's hard to
don't know how to fix that. I'm trying. I've had 2 computers up, but I have one muted. Is this any better?
Yeah, it's significantly better.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. I muted everything on the other one and tried. For some reason, your settings are not typically the way it was in the last board meeting. I will just say the chat is disabled, and I don't see anyone other than the commissioners. I don't see any other public attendees. Maybe that's intended. I don't know. Anyway, to my point, my understanding is the federal law requires anybody using a vessel for hire to have, at the minimum, a OVV 6-pack. Is that your understanding, or are you familiar with the federal law requiring passenger for hire, including up to a jet ski?
Yes, any vessel that is carrying paying passengers. I'm a 100-ton captain myself. I'm very familiar with the Coast Guard regulations. Any vessel that is carrying paying passengers for the vessel voyage is required to have at minimum, a 50-ton captain's license.
That's my understanding as well. And that includes any time you use a vessel for any type of pay, period. Is that kind of what you understand to be? That's
yes,
the way
it is.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
So if I'm using my jet ski as a means of teaching water sports, would I be required to have a captain's license?
If you're carrying paying passengers that have paid you to take them out on a voyage on any CF registered vessel or U.S. Coast Guard documented vessel, yes, you would be.
So to your point here, you say that there are only currently 2 permittees at Oyster Point with those licenses, and no one else is applying for them. I have it on the agenda item today, item 14, such a request for a commercial permit activity, which would require me to have a captain's license, which I do have.
Mr. Chandler, we're not at item 14 right now.
I
We're
understand
actually
that.
on item 8.
My point being is that I want to clarify the facts on this current request because you're telling me that you only have 2 currently, but I know to be the fact that you have a commercial permit currently operating there that uses jet skis, and to my knowledge is not one of those permittees. And I am also requesting this, and it was not mentioned that I am also requesting this permit.
As I
just want
said,
to take it into consideration as you make your decision.
as I said, we currently only have 2 active commercial activity permits for undocumented vessels.
Right.
Okay, so wait, so gentlemen, this is public comment, and each person making a public comment has 2 minutes. So I don't see the clock, Melanie. I know that we turned it off so that we could hear Mr. Chandler. Are you keeping time?
Well, I believe his 2 minutes are up. Would you like me to use them?
Yes. So Mr. Chandler, when we get to item 14, you may make a comment at that time, or even for the other items, but each member of the public is given 2 minutes. And just so you know, in terms of the substance of any of the items for discussion, if you don't hear us as board members engage with you, that's because we're not allowed to do so. But I know that Mr. Moran has, answered questions as a member of staff. So I don't see any other hands raised for public comment at this time for item number 8. But I would like to say one thing so that the public understands that this format for our meeting today is the usual format that we use for our Harbor Board meetings. The last format at the last meeting was actually a public workshop. So it was a little bit different format where public members, people who were interested in the items could address the commissioners via chat as well. And there was more interaction because it was a public workshop, even though it was a special meeting. But this is our regular format for our regular meetings. So getting back to item 8, are there any other commissioner comments or any other public comments? I don't see any hands raised.
Point out that Mr. Chandler's computer settings may be off. The chat is readily available, and it may be something
I see it here.
done on his end.
Yeah, I see the chat here too. Any other commissioner comments? Okay, there is a motion and a second. So if there are no other commissioner comments, let's do a roll call for item 8.
Commissioner Matoush?
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke?
Aye.
President Chang Corrali?
Aye.
Commissioner Ryring?
Aye.
That motion carries. Item 9 is consideration of a commercial activity permit for Seton Brothers Fishing Company at Pillar Point Harbor. Mr. Moran. Well, actually, Commissioner Zemke, you pulled this as well. Would you just like to?
Yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit more, maybe a more explanation about the logic in the analysis. The ordinance right now allows, I think, up to 16 inspected permits with inspected vessels and 6 with undocumented vessels. And we currently have 6, and it says that more can be granted, provided that there's a review that doesn't show any impact to doing so. So I just wanted to understand the logic of how we determined that and I'm assuming we did determine it, that there's no impact to granting additional permits for undocumented vessels.
Yes, at Pillar Point Harbor, we are not at the maximum. We've only got 9 inspected, currently only 9 inspected charter boats. Therefore, it was determined by our general manager that it was reasonable for the board to consider going over the 6 that are allowed for unoccupied vessels or uninspected vessels. At a 3-to-1 ratio, basically, is what the general manager had discussed. Meaning, if we have 3 not taken up for the inspected vessels, then we could allow one additional uninspected vessel.
Okay.
And the whole thought behind allowing or having maximums are that there's only so many fish in a pond, and if we allowed an unlimited number of either of the category vessels, it would be possible to oversaturate the market and make it to where there's just simply not enough customers to make all of the commercial activity permittees successful in their business.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Matoush?
Commissioner Zemke, may I also give you a little historical perspective here? There was a time when Pillar Point Harbor had 15 large vessels. These were vessels greater than 50 foot in length. There was a couple of 65 footers, some 50 footers, some 53 footers, and currently that number is down to 6. That's a little historical perspective on your 16 versus what we have now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks.
I'll open this topic up to public comment. This is for item number 9. I see one hand raised, Johnny Chandler. Mr. Chandler, would you like to address item or talk about, or give your public comment for item number 9?
I'm sorry, this is not pertinent to this particular topic, but I am trying to communicate and the chat is disabled. I've tried it on 2 different computers. I have an IT background. Don't think it's a setting on my side. I also don't see any members of the public other than the commissioners. And I'll leave it at that. If that can be addressed, great. I understand the technology challenges sometimes don't always work. I don't believe there's a problem on my end. So if that would be addressed where I could see other members of the public, other attendees, and also be able to communicate without raising my hand and disrupting the meeting, that would be wonderful. But I think I could speak to Melanie, the host, and not commissioners.
Thank you. Melanie, we see all members of the public and all the hands raised, so I don't know what's going on. I mean, we can see you, Mr. Chandler, and hear you. So if it helps, maybe I'll just call on you as soon as when I see your hand up. Okay, any other commissioner discussions or comments? Okay. This is for item number 9. Is there a motion to approve the commercial activity permit for Seton Brothers Fishing Company at Pillar Point Harbor until December 31st, 2021?
I will so move.
Amendment?
I'll take an amendment. Mr. Commissioner Matoush, what's your amendment?
We approve 9 and 10 simultaneously.
Since Commissioner Zemke pulled off number 10, if he would like to do that, that is fine with me, but I'm not sure.
I can just redo the motion to approve both 9 and 10 at the same time.
Well, okay, perfect. So the motion will be now to approve the commercial activity permit for Seton Brothers Fishing Company at Pillar Point Harbor until December 31st, 2021, and approve the commercial activity permit for What a Catch Fisheries at Pillar Point Harbor until December 31st, 2021. So Commissioner Zemke made that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, there's no discussion, so, and I don't see any hands raised from the public. So Melanie, roll call, please.
Mr. Zemke?
Aye.
President Shane Corrali?
Aye.
Commissioner Ryring?
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush?
Aye.
The motion carries, and now we'll go to item 14, which I'm moving up with the other items regarding the commercial activity permit. So this is consideration of a commercial activity permit for California Action Sports, Johnny Chandler at Oyster Point Marina. Mr. Moran, would you like to give the report here?
Yes, this agenda item is for the board to consider the water sports commercial activity permit application submitted by California Action Sports at Oyster Point Marina. The commercial activity permit applicant is requesting approval to conduct a kiteboarding and water sports instruction business at Oyster Point Marina. Currently, the district has already authorized another kiteboarding, windsurfing, water sports rental instruction business to operate out of Oyster Point Marina. Staff believes, based on past experience, that the addition of another business of this type would create an oversaturation of services such that neither business would ultimately find success in operating. As has been experienced in the past, when there were two like businesses operating at Oyster Point, there's a high likelihood of conflict and the current permittee arguing that their business would be negatively impacted by the addition of another. As has been argued in the past, staff believes it is self-evident from staff observation and past conflict, even under the best circumstances, that at present, there is simply not enough customer demand for two water sports businesses to be successful. As if there were plenty of customers to support two water sports businesses, there would not have been the substantial conflict we had experienced previously. In addition, kiteboard water sports instruction necessitates use of a large green space area, unencumbered by trees. Oyster Point Marina has always only had one small area suitable. As is public knowledge, at this time, the Oyster Point Marina western landside area is undergoing a very large development project. This project currently further restricts available green space area with installation of temporary fencing, parking lots, and temporary sediment storage. In addition, the district is currently developing a master plan which will determine an area for a 40,000 square foot retail site to be developed by the district, possibly further narrowing areas suitable for water sports instruction. Therefore, staff cannot recommend the board approve another water sports cap at this time. If the board does decide to approve this commercial activity permit, pursuant to the terms and conditions of the cap, permittee will be allowed to operate a kiteboarding water sports instruction business at Oyster Point Marina. Permittee has already paid the application fee and would be required to pay deposit and passenger fees as adjusted annually. Due to previous discussed potential negative impact to the current water sport permittees businesses, proven historical conflicts when the district previously allowed two competing white caps, and the currently or uncertainty surrounding landside development, staff recommends the board deny the commercial activity permit for California Action Sports at Oyster Point Marina at this time. It is possible that after the development project is complete and the district has determined the area for district's retail development, the district could then reevaluate the potential feasibility for a second water sports cap.
Okay, I'm going to open this topic up for public comment. I see a hand raised by Mr. John Olam. Mr. Olam, you have 2 minutes to address item number 14.
Thank you. Just so we're clear, I don't have a method of muting myself when I finish. That's up to your staff to take care of that, Ms. Corrali. And I really don't appreciate you calling me out for doing something wrong when I didn't. I'm just sitting there at home or at work, wherever I am, participating in a meeting. And if you choose to leave it open, that's the way it is. I don't understand why your staff is concerned about the competitiveness of others' businesses out there. That's not your role to decide how much business you're getting or how much business somebody else is getting and if they're getting enough. Further, there's all kinds of retail in the Bay Area, but there's very little open space. So the idea that you intend to use open space to build retail. Whose voice am I hearing in the background? Hello? Because I don't even know if you're listening to me at this point. All I'm hearing is a bunch of people talking. Is this how you normally run your meetings, Ms. Corrali? Yeah.
Melanie, I'm not sure if Mr. Olam is done, so I'm just going to let the clock run out.
Mr. Olam is done.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments for this item, item number 14? Okay, I'll open it up to commissioner comments.
I guess I would
Commissioner
just,
Matoush? Oh, sorry, Commissioner Zimke. I just saw Commissioner Matoush's hand up.
no, it's fine.
Commissioner Matoush?
I'd like to point out historically, Pillar Point Harbor had 2 bait shops, and now we're down to 1. And even that one is, I would not say overly successful at this particular time. It's probably a good thing there's only 1. I'm not sure, the staff already pointed out the competition of this thing may not be sustainable. I too, as the staff report points out, would like to see the construction and a lot of the complications of the rise, the Bay Trail rise. There's so many things going on at Oyster Point that I don't believe this is a time to take on another business.
Commissioner Zimke?
Yeah, I'd just like to echo Tom's comments. Oyster Point is a pretty confusing place right at the moment, and it's hard to see what it's going to look like when it's all done. So, and I think that's really the primary reason that I would point to for denying this permit. I am curious, the one existing permittee that we have out there, do we have any idea how busy his business is?
I can speak to that and just say that from my observations and from the observations of the harbor master and staff as they reported to me and the harbor master, it is not extremely busy. There just does not seem to be, over the 5 years I've been here, a large demand for people to go into those waters that some may consider not clean, and the cold temperature, et cetera, could be additional challenges that the current water sports commercial activity permittee has to deal with. Unlike, for instance, Half Moon Bay Kayak here, people that are kayaking, we see quite a bit of demand. Just have not seen that kind of demand for the water sports.
Yeah. Well, that would be consistent with my observations when I'm out there as well. Okay, that's the only comment I have.
Okay, so I still have public comment open, so I see a hand raised now, and we'll take public comment from Mr. Johnny Chandler. Mr. Chandler, thank you. And you'll have 2 minutes to make your public comment.
Okay, I want to appreciate the commissioner's time in considering this permit. I would like to speak to various issues. There's not an actual assessment of the competitiveness of the current existing business, whether he's successful or not, other than his reporting of those numbers. I would also point out that he's currently in violation of federal law. U.S. Coast Guard regulations require that he have a captain's license. I do have a captain's license. Your permit, commercial permit, clearly states you must abide by all federal, state, and local laws. I regret that I worked with the current permittee and had an agreement with him that he would not oppose me, and that Mr. Morin would agree that if he would not oppose me, that he would not oppose my permit. Unfortunately, on Monday of last week, I was on the phone in the director's office, and that permittee reversed his position. And I will have to say he was led by Director Morin, not anything against Director Morin. I think he was simply laying out his case and left it to the permittee to say, yes, it would be, or no, it wouldn't be a problem. He changed his mind. There is plenty of business out there. There are 10 schools operating in the Bay Area, some of them very large. I currently work for 2 of them. They are both booked with lessons out for 2 to 3 weeks. I don't know if any of the commissioners were provided with the documentation that I submitted, but I submitted a lengthy PowerPoint explaining why I would not be an impact. I will not be doing any lessons at Oyster Point on land. I will do them all from a boat. I see I only have 15 seconds left. This is hardly enough time to me explain my position. I want to thank you for your consideration. I will oppose the current permittee's current permittee if I am denied mine.
Any other commissioner comments? So I have a quick question for you, John, because I'm pretty sympathetic to to Mr. Chandler's position in terms of competition. Is there any way that we could take this back and just to do a little more research? I mean, the staff report I thought was pretty clear, but that's just me. I mean, I understand that we need to balance all of the permittees, business and the supply and demand thing, but at the same time, I don't know. I think we have to treat everyone equally. And I think that we're trying to do our best here. So I'm not trying to say that you're not doing the job, because I think, of course, you do a great job. I'm just wondering if there's additional information that we need to get. And if there's not, that's fine too. And I might be outvoted here. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yes, Commissioner Crowley, I got to say that I've spoken with the commercial activity permittee applicant multiple times. I am frankly disappointed that he would mischaracterize the conversation that I had with the current commercial activity permittee, because the fact is I told the applicant that I did not need to call and talk to the current commercial activity permittee, that this was a district decision, that we do obviously sympathize with him and his plight during COVID and the personal information that I can't disclose that he relayed to me, sympathize greatly with it. However, I have to make a recommendation to the board that's in the best behalf of our San Mateo County Harbor District. And the fact is that I have already experienced in my 5 years here, as has our staff, and the strong recommendation from our harbor master at Oyster Point Marina for 18 years was that, as I had experienced as well, there simply is not enough demand to support 2 water sports entities that would be taking customers from each other at Oyster Point Marina, in addition to all of the other concerns with regard to the development that's taking place there and the district's ultimate desire to potentially choose an area for a 40,000 square foot retail site that is going to potentially even restrict the current commercial activity permittee's area of use. But what the applicant said was simply not true, that I contacted the current commercial activity permittee. That is simply not true. The commercial activity applicant called the current commercial activity permittee while sitting in my office. And I did say that if that individual said to me that he did not believe, that he believed that there was, in fact, from his experience, there was, in fact, enough demand to support 2, and it would not negatively impact our current commercial activity permittee, that I would relay that to the board and would be in support of the current applicant. However, what did occur was the commercial activity current permittee, called Melanie, and Melanie walked into my office with her phone in hand and handed me the phone where the current commercial activity permittee wanted to speak to me. He said to me at that time that he believed that it would negatively impact his business. He couldn't survive if, in fact, we allowed another commercial activity permittee to be in competition with him. I said I understood his point, and that was it. I was not going to even include that discussion in this commercial activity permit because I don't believe it's relevant. I believe we're making decisions based on the facts, and the facts are what we've already observed and the recommendation from the current harbor master at Oyster Point Marina and myself still remains that what we've observed in the past is that when we did have two commercial activity permittees, even under the best of circumstances, there was great conflict there. There just simply was not enough business to support two and have two of them undertaking the same business to be successful. In addition to what else I explained about the challenges with space out there that's going to further restrict any landside instruction. The commercial activity permittee is saying that he won't be doing any instruction. That again is just very difficult for staff to manage, and it is not to say that he will not be taking passengers away from our current commercial activity permittee, or giving some quick instruction on land in the same area that our current commercial activity permittee is trying to use. Again, I try to bring just the facts to the board for consideration. My recommendation remains that, just as I told the current applicant, I cannot change my recommendation. My recommendation, best interest of the district, would be to not put ourselves in a position where we encourage another business to start there, and then have to, maybe even once they become established, in competition with our current permittee, have to restrict them further because of the future development and the current desire by the contractor to use areas for temporary parking and sediment staging, which we've just recently allowed them again to do out of necessity, trying to cooperate with the developer. I don't see any of those factors changing until the development is complete. I just don't believe that that further research, I guess we could pay a consultant to do if the board directs, to do market research to try to determine what the demand is specifically for water sports, for kiteboarding, et cetera, in the Bay Area surrounding Oyster Point Marina. Again, it's just been self-evident to us that there is simply not enough demand. Just as I don't believe there would be, even though Half Moon Bay Kayak, for instance, at Pillar Point Harbor is I believe successful and has quite a bit of demand on their kayak rental. There's enough business there for them to be successful. I would not be in support of allowing a commercial activity permit for a second kayak rental to go in right beside them, just like Commissioner Mateusz discussed about the bait shop. We have a bait shop. I would not be in support of a second bait shop.
Thank you. I see Commissioner Mateusz's hand is raised. Commissioner Mateusz.
Okay, I had to make sure I was off mute. So the applicant has stated that he's got similar operations at several other locations. We've already heard that the construction is a severe challenge in that area. Therefore, I'm going to motion that we deny this permit.
Is there a second?
I will second that.
Okay, I think, any other discussion? Commissioner Ryring, did you have any questions?
Yeah, I do. I mean, it makes me uncomfortable to base this decision on the current operator's opinion of what competition would do to his business, but I do see a positive direction in waiting until the construction out there is complete. John, you said something about staff's responsibility. What would staff's responsibility be out there to a new permittee?
I did not mean to imply that this would be an exceptionally difficult burden if the board decided to approve this commercial activity permit. I don't believe this would be a significant burden on staff, if that's what you meant.
Okay.
Staff can handle a second commercial activity permit for kiteboarding and windsurfing, just as we handled it when we had two. It was challenging for me until we got specific times and areas for the two competing businesses to to work within the open areas. That was challenging for me, but it was nothing I would ask the board to base decision on. It was more just, again, it was evident that that neither was successful. In fact, the other ended up not renewing their commercial activity permit.
Okay. And they said that was because there wasn't enough business?
No, they did not tell me why.
Didn't say why. So the motion on the table, am I correct that it is just to deny? It isn't to return it to staff to look at this further. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. That's the staff recommendation. Sorry, Tom.
Revise my motion to say, I move that we deny this today, and if staff wishes to do something else, that's fine. But at this time, I motion that this be denied today.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Let me just say real quick to the board that unless directed to do otherwise, staff does not think it would be money well spent to have some sort of a study done to see, or to try to verify, in fact, that that there is enough customers to support two windsurfing operations, windsurfing, kiteboarding, water sports operations at Oyster Point Marina. It's already been evidenced again to district staff through years of observation that there's just not been a great demand, and it is evident in staff's opinion that is now since the current permittee applicant prompted, I guess, the current permittee to phone me, that our current commercial activity permittee also agrees that that this will substantially negatively impact his current business that we've already got a commercial activity permit for, and the fact that the development is not going to stop at Oyster Point. It's going to continue. So that is a factor that is definitely not going to change. So at best, I would think that maybe the board would direct staff to revisit it once the development is complete.
I think that all makes sense. I just want to reiterate that I'm really uncomfortable with basing a decision on what the current operator says will impact his business or not. I think all of your other points are well taken. But it's.
And let me interrupt for just a second. I'm sorry, Nancy, but again, my discussion with the current applicant was that I did not need to speak with the current commercial activity permittee. The current commercial activity permittee finally called me, but that was most likely due to the applicant asking that he does such. I can't say that for sure, but he did call me. He reached out to me. But my decision, as far as the recommendation to the board, had already been made, and that had already been made clear to the applicant. So the decision of the staff to recommend not approving this commercial activity permit, frankly, had nothing to do with the current commercial activity permittee's opinion.
Good. I think that's important to say, because that's not our job here to make that kind of a determination. I think it would reflect badly on our agency if that's what it looked like we were doing, because it certainly is not my intention. I don't think anyone on the board feels that way either. So thank you, John.
And just as I told the current applicant too, I'm a firm believer, just as Mr. Olam said, that we have a free market, the best customer service, lower prices prevail. But that said, at some point, it is, I would argue, the district's responsibility not to try to generate additional revenue through commercial activity by issuing commercial activity permits, such that we make it to where nobody can be successful. For instance, if we had open retail space at Pillar Point Harbor and we had 4 bait shops, that wanted to be in competition with our current lessee, it would be arguably irresponsible for the district to allow 4 more to go in, and then none of them are successful. But again, it's a board decision. The staff at Oyster Point will adapt and do exactly as the board directs.
Thank you, John. Commissioner Myron, do you have any other comments? There is a public comment, a hand raised for a public comment that I would like to take. It's with the applicant, and because it's with the applicant, I'll let him make another public comment and maybe, just to listen to what he has to say. Mr. Johnny Chandler?
Thank you. And my apologies to Director Moore, and I did not mean to mischaracterize anything. I tried to make it clear in a very short period of time. What you stated for the most part is correct. But my point was that I had spoken to the commercial permittee, and he said he would not oppose it. When I got him to call the office, because he said he wouldn't reach out to him, so I went to the office, made a phone call, had him call, and then Mr. Moore explained, as he has been explaining, that it would be a conflict of interest and would hurt the current committee's business. And that was his opinion based on past experience, and basically essentially led the current permittee to concur with him, which is no surprise. The other information he has is based on previous reporting by the commercial permittee. I will be doing everything from a boat, as other kiteboarding schools are doing. Doing things from a jet ski is risky. You need a captain's license to do it, period. Your current commercial permittee does not have it. He has not had it for over 9 years. He's had plenty of time to do it. There's a $35,000 fine per day by the U.S. Coast Guard if you're found in violation of that. I promise he will no longer be operating for the foreseeable future if he is granted the permit to continue and I'm denied one. And I'm having to fight here for my right. There's plenty of business out there. I am subcontracting for 2 other schools right now, so I can comply with the rules and regulations and not undermine them. I'm also able to operate apparently out of Oyster Point as long as I don't pick people up there. So I will impact his business regardless. I will grow the business. I plan on doing paddleboarding and windsurfing. He only does kiteboarding. Okay. This at the very least needs more review, and certainly do not have enough information to make a decision based today to deny me a permit.
Thank you, Mr. Chandler. I see Mr. Olam's hand is raised since I don't think that he finished his public comment last time. I'm allowing this public comment to go through now. Mr. Olam.
Thank you, President Crowley. I think Ms. Rearing kind of nailed it. You guys are picking winners and losers. You don't have any idea what the business model.
Mr. Olam, are you trying to get through to make a public comment?
Yes, I am.
Melanie?
I can hear him.
Is there a problem here?
I hear him.
I can hear John.
I can
I don't know what to say.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes, but there's a big echo, Virginia.
I can hear you, President Chen Crawley.
Sorry.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Mr. Olam. I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry.
You're getting a lot of reverb on this whole thing. Someone's got something turned on they shouldn't have. Any rate, you're
I'm
picking
going to
winners and
restart the
losers.
timer for you. Hold on a moment, John. I'm going to restart the timer for you.
Yes, please. Yeah, there's a lot of background something or other. I don't know what it is. It's feedback or something.
Okay, I'll try one more time. Commissioner Rearing is correct that you are picking winners and losers, and you should feel very uncomfortable doing it. None of you know anything about the kite surfing business or any business like that. I myself have been involved in hang gliding and soaring, and I can tell you there are instructors out there who are real jerks, and I won't work with them. And if there's no other instructor in the area, I go to a different airport or a different glider port or a different instructor for hang gliding. So you have no idea why this business that's already out there is or is not succeeding. You already have a bunch of opposition expressed on the part of the city council in South San Francisco to taking away any more open space out there. They made this very clear at the last meeting that you had, the last liaison committee meeting. So it's really surprising that you would take this approach to approving or not approving a kite surfing school. Mr. Moran, you know I usually agree with everything you said, but you clearly stated that if the current guy had agreed to and said there was enough demand, that you would change your recommendation. That's what you said when you were describing it. You had about 15 minutes. You said a lot of different things in there, so maybe you corrected it, but you clearly stated that you spoke with the current and that if he had told you that there was enough business, there would be another, you would change your opinion. Well, who's going to tell you that there's enough business? Thank you for your time. Please mute me. I have no way of doing that.
Thank you. Any other public comment? I see, I'm going to take this last one from you, Mr. Chandler. Thank you. You have 2 minutes.
I just want to reiterate, I think this process is unfair. I don't think you have clear facts. I intend on not only teaching kiteboarding, but kiteboarding is a revenue source, okay, because of the danger involved and because of the difficulties in launching and landing a kite. People pay a lot of money for that. They pay more money to do it from a boat. I do it both from a jet ski and from a boat for other businesses as a subcontractor. I'm trying to do my own school. I've worked for Mr. Kafka at Window Ward in the past. I have a good relationship with him. I've lent him money. He still owes me that money. I haven't given him a hard time about it. I have no intention of fighting with him. I have a marketing background. I have multiple sources for generating new business. I have meetup groups. I have Facebook groups. Mr. Kafka does none of that. He sits around and waits for his website to get business. If you're not assessing this fairly, please, at the very least, open the door. I will be doing kiteboarding instruction from Oyster Point. I simply won't be picking up students there. I will be impacting his business regardless. At the very least, give me a consideration. I would like to do an open water swim club there. I am a passionate water sports person. I've been in the water since I was 4. I was a water safety instructor at 17. I've been teaching windsurfing for free for decades as a president of the Board Sailing Association, the vice president, or just as an active board sailing member. I'm passionate about sailing. I own my own sailboat. It's there at Oyster Point. I plan on doing sailing lesson there if allowed to have a permit. There are a lot of things I can do there. I can do paddleboarding there. I can do something new called wing boarding. Mr. Kafka only does kiteboard lessons and or wing foiling lessons now. I could do a lot more and generate a lot more revenue for this Oyster Point. If I'm not allowed to do that, I will be removing my boats likely, which would lose a lot of revenue for the Oyster Point.
Thank you. Commissioner Ryring?
Can I just ask that if this does go back to staff to review, that we get more information about the impact of the development, the available space for operation, whether or not there could be constraints on the licensee about the use of land-based lessons if we're concerned about safety or impact to the environment in some way, ingress and egress of tenants, anything like that. That's the kind of thing I'd be interested in hearing more about.
I actually would agree. I think I expressed concern a little bit about the competition, the landscape, the competition landscape. But I think, in terms of trying to define that, I think there are so many great points brought up today by Mr. Moran and the other commissioners, especially Commissioner Mateusz, and, about what he has experienced over at Pillar Point, but also Commissioner Zimke, who lives in South San Francisco and has seen, the day-to-day situation with the construction. And I have been out there as well, and it's significant construction. And I think my original idea of kind of understanding the licensing, the impact of the development, the existing piers, all of that might be able to help us define, what the problem is from our various tenants or vendors, if you will. I mean, I think Mr. Moran brought up some great points about the need to balance a lot of these basically our tenants or lessees, so that we're not harming them either. But I don't think that there's enough information for me to vote on a motion to permanently deny this. And so I appreciate Commissioner Mateusz's amended motion to deny this today. But I think that to make the motion more impactful, maybe we should consider as a board to direct staff through Mr. Pruitt to have staff look at, licensing and the impact of the construction and the piers, and, bring this back either in August or September, however long staff needs, just to get more information for, at least for me. I don't know, I might again be outvoted on this, so I don't want to assume or presume that, the idea is a great idea or not. So that's just my suggestion. I brought it up earlier, and I'm just glad that everyone's been able to give input today. So my suggestion would be, Tom, if you would like to amend your motion to direct staff to look at more information from a commercial impact from the construction and the existing pier and, whatever else Mr. Moran or Mr. Pruitt think are things that we should look at from an operations standpoint with the understanding that we are balancing the needs of all of our tenants as best as we can.
There's another way to
To
look
make,
at
to make clear, let me just add, to make clear, we could word the commercial activity permit if the board wants to move forward with approving this commercial activity permit, irregardless of the development on land side, we could approve it with the stipulation, as the applicant is saying, that he cannot do any landside instruction. Again, staff would do their best to enforce that. But that would take out, if you will, the challenges with regard to the development project altogether, other than just the small customer base that would be arriving in vehicles, which I don't think would be really impactful. Again,
Well, I mean, John, I actually don't feel comfortable voting either way until I get more information on that. I mean, I trust it because the report wasn't as long as it could be. So, I mean, more robust, I guess. So I'm not saying that I'm disagreeing with you. I just think that if we can direct staff, and this is what I'm saying, to have Commissioner Mateusz amend his motion to direct staff to do these, to look into this just a little more, to give the report a little more substance based on the questions and the concerns that were raised today by the commission.
focusing on, I'm sorry, just for clarity, focusing on the impact to land side, which I guess we've just established would not be considerable.
Yeah, but that's based on what your assessment is. So if we could have that information in a written report with substantiation, that would back up your assumption that there wouldn't be any impact. That would be, that's just an example. So, I mean, that's just one example. I just think that for me, and I'm just one vote, I would want some more information on that kind of a landscape.
President Corrali, there's another way to handle this.
Okay.
And that would be to not vote on this at all, to not approve it, to not disapprove it. I do have some severe concerns when an applicant issues basically veiled threats against the district and against other operators that are currently in our favor. I don't take kindly to that. But if there's no motion to approve, there's also no motion to disapprove, and this can be carried out further along with what you want. We're not denying it, and I would say we don't approve it. So I would amend my motion to drop this whole thing and let it come back to another meeting.
Okay, so Commissioner Mateusz, thanks for that. So basically, from a procedural standpoint, you would be withdrawing your original motion, correct? So why don't you make that statement that you're withdrawing your original motion, Original motion,
and I'm proposing neither a vote for, neither a vote against, and this can come forward in a few months and we can look at construction. But let me also be very clear. This threatening one of our existing clients, threatening the district, is not something I take kindly to. And it's not something that warms me up to doing business with a person like that.
I would agree with that too. So you're withdrawing your motion. So I think that means that the second is also withdrawn, Commissioner.
Yes, I will withdraw the second.
Okay. So Commissioner Mateusz, do you want to have staff or direct staff to get more information before bringing this back?
No action whatsoever.
Okay. I actually would like to make a motion to direct staff to look at some of the issues that were brought up today as a concern, so that if this comes back in the future, then we have more information.
Could you just to be clear, Commissioner Crawley, would you like to have a feasibility study done to determine?
I don't think that there needs to be any kind of consulting. I don't agree with, hiring a consultant and doing an RFP for, one potential lessee or vendor. But I do think that we can look at concerns like from the construction issue that Commissioner Zemke has brought up before, and raised those concerns and the land side issues, and
whether or not there are safety issues involved, and whether or not the way the applicant is constraining their business is feasible using our infrastructure there, because he's talking about taking all of his clients out on his boat. So yeah, I think that there's room for a little more robust investigation.
And let me just say that based on our rules, commissioners, we have to take some kind of action. So since we're not approving or denying, that's the reason that I'm making a motion to direct staff to get more information. Is there a second to that motion?
I would support that. Yes, I'll second that.
Okay, so John, I don't know. I mean, you were probably taking notes. So if you had any, these are just the concerns that I had, and I think Commissioner Wiring has similar concerns. So, do you have an understanding of what we're trying to direct you to do?
Yes, I think so. I can get with the applicant and have him lay out more clearly that he will not be using any landside amenities other than his customer parking. Will be loading equipment on the boat and going out of the harbor, which then would not negatively impact the landside space, and we would have no commitment to him then for a future landside space, because his commercial activity permit that maybe the board did approve would state clearly that that he has no use of landside space. And it sounds like what he's saying today is that that's fine with him, that all he wants to do is pick up customers.
Let me just make a comment too. I am not disagreeing with you, but I also want you to know that, at least for me, I do support and take seriously your recommendations. And I hear what Commissioner Matoush is saying, because at the end of the day, and this is probably, among us, but I hope that the public will also understand what Commissioner Matoush is saying and the importance of it. We do have tenants. We do, and we must make sure that, they're all kind of working in sync with us as well. We are a public agency. So I think that we need to take the totality of the circumstances. I'm not asking you, Mr. Morin, to make a case for the applicant or not. I'm just asking you to get additional information so that we have, as a commission and the deciding body, on what we need to make a decision, so that there is no preference for one lessee or tenant over another based on facts, as you said. But I also want to make sure that the public knows that our job as a public agency as well is to ensure that our tenants are in sync with our philosophy as well. So that's hopefully addresses Commissioner Matoush's issue of potential, threats and possibly harm to the district and to Oyster Point. I can see that. And again, John, I don't want you to make a case for one vendor over another. That's really what I'm saying. I just want you to lay out the information. So based on our operations, based on, historical data that you've seen, if, as much as we can give, given that this Oyster Point construction situation hasn't been that long and, in its existence, right? But also kind of looking to the future. It's not our job as a public agency to make a case for one tenant over another, but it is our job to ensure that we're operating as smoothly as possible and with the least amount of conflict as possible so that all of our tenants and our vendors or contractees are doing, kind of following our mission as a harbor district and a public agency. So, we can talk about it a little more, John, but I think that you probably have the gist of the concerns that were raised, not just by the commissioners, but also by members of the public. But your job is not to make a case for a particular tenant or vendor. Your job is to give just as neutral, as information as neutral as possible to the commission so that we can make the decision based on, your professional research and based on your research and your professional recommendation. So we're not asking you to make a case for this particular lessee or contractor or vendor.
Very well understood. We'll put together more information and get with the applicant to maybe provide more clarity as well, exactly with what the demand his business would require on the land side. So we'll be able to clarify that very good. And then we may even, I'll get with the general manager with regard to maybe even bringing forward some options for the district to consider with regard to ordinance change where we have a limit then, because obviously if we allow another kite board business to go out there, what's stopping a third or fourth, fifth, sixth? So we could potentially limit it to, or I'll give the board some options, 1, 2, 3, or however many.
Yes, muted. The alternatives, John, but also I'm sure the general manager will have some information that he would like to, impart and give to you as well, and, on issues that we're not seeing as a commission right now, but that he might see. So again, these are things that we can discuss once once you finalize your research. So that's my motion, which is basically to direct staff to do additional research based on the issues that were brought up today and just the concerns raised by us and the public, and also any potential concerns raised by the general manager in concert with your concerns. But again, bringing us information rather than making a case for any particular tenant, lessee, or contractor. So there is a motion and a second. I'm closing public comment right now. So there's a motion and a second. Are there any additional discussion items from the commissioners on this particular topic, item number 14? Okay, roll call please for the vote, Melanie.
President Shane Crowley.
Aye.
Mr. Ryring.
I think you're on mute, Commissioner Ryring.
I'm so sorry. Aye.
Commissioner Matoush.
I abstain.
Commissioner Zemke.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries. Thank you very much, everyone, for your input. And John, you've got direction right now to at least do some more research. Thank you very much.
Trying to get it back to the board right away.
Thank you. So now we'll go back to our normal discussion items. Item number 11, Oyster Point Marina East Dock Replacement Design, Engineering, Permitting, and Construction Management Services Change Order. John.
Okay, this is an opportunity for the board to decide upon two alternative motions. Motion A is to authorize the general manager to approve a change order to the previously approved Moffett & Nichol Oyster Point Marina East Dock Replacement Project Professional Services Agreement for an amount not to exceed $177,779 additionally. And that will allow for design, permitting, and construction of additional dredging to a maintenance depth of -8 feet, found necessary at dock 11, the guest dock, and to accommodate the replacement of docks 12 through 14, increasing the previously approved total design, engineering, permitting, and construction support from $536,800 to $714,579, and establish a contract contingency in the amount of 10% of the revised contract amount for unanticipated additional expenses associated with the contract, and authorize the general manager to issue additional change orders up to the new contingency amount of $786,037. And motion B is the same, except for increasing the dredge depth to a -10 feet at an additional design, engineering, permitting cost of $67,100. Oyster Point Marina was originally constructed in the 1960s. Operation and maintenance of Oyster Point Marina, which is located on land owned by City of South San Francisco, was transferred to the San Mateo County Harbor District in 1977 via a 49-year joint powers agreement. In the 1980s, the district replaced the original docks in the West Basin, expanded the marina into the East Basin with construction of a new breakwater. In 2012, a Weta ferry terminal was installed. The project included the installation of a new concrete floating guest dock, Dock 8, and the replacement of one of the eastern docks, Dock 11. The marina currently has 408 slips spread over 12 docks. Docks 1 through 7 are in the West Basin, and docks 8, 11, 12, 13, and 14 are in the East Basin. In 2018, the district entered into an MOU with the City of South San Francisco, replacing the JPA. The MOU obligates the district to first replace docks 12 through 14, which are over 30 years old and have all exceeded their serviceable life. Therefore, the district prepared an RFP to request qualified firms or individuals to submit design, engineering, permitting, and construction management proposals. Proposals were due on September 5th, 2020. Based on the RFP evaluation criteria, through careful analysis, Moffett & Nichol was ranked highest overall. On November 18th, 2020, the board approved entering into a professional service agreement with Moffett & Nichol for $488,000 with a 10% contingency, totaling $536,800. The PSA included evaluating the need for possible dredging, but did not include the design engineering if in fact dredging was found to be needed. Subsequently, Moffett & Nichol developed dock layout design alternatives and hosted the first public workshop, which was conducted on July 8th, 2021. Moffett & Nichol had a bathymetric survey done, which determined the areas that would need to be dredged and roughly how many cubic yards of sediment would need to be removed. It was found that approximately 34,000 to 58,000 cubic yards of material would need to be moved in order to reach the -8 feet maintenance target dredge depths under the existing Dock 8, 11, and the new Docks 12 through 14. Moffett & Nichol's design, engineering, permitting change order cost for maintenance dredging, motion A, would be an additional $177,779. Approximately 58,000 to 82,000 cubic yards would need to be removed if the district decided to go to the deepening depths. Moffett & Nichols design, engineering, permitting change order for motion B, deepening, would be $238,779. In addition to the design, engineering, permitting costs being $67,100 higher for the deepening versus the maintenance, Alternative permitting will take longer and actual construction costs will be higher as well because of more material that's being removed. On the positive side, deeper depths will prolong the need for future dredge episode. Moffitt Nickel Chief Engineer Neil Nichols is with us today and can answer any questions that the board may have. Both motions A and B would cover respective costs for the additional dredge design, engineering, core sampling, permitting, and construction support. Staff recommends the board authorize a general manager to approve change order either A or B for the East Dock Replacement Project Professional Services Agreement, dredge change orders. The staff, in consideration originally, I must say, believed that while all the docks are removed was the opportune time to go ahead and dredge as deep as is possible down to the deepening depths of -10 feet. However, in further discussion with the Moffitt Nickel Chief Engineer and their professional team, I must say I now believe that the -8 feet would be sufficient for us. The fact is that over the 5 years I've been here, based on our previous soundings, that Oyster Point Marina just simply does not silt in very quickly. In addition, the Moffitt Nickel Chief Engineer has made clear that just because we're going to -8 feet doesn't mean that will be the end result. We can actually go -8 feet plus 1, which would bring us throughout the area, the dredge episode area, between 8 and 9 feet. Then we can also potentially pay for an additional foot. That would bring us between -8 and -10 feet throughout the entire dredge area. And I believe that would be sufficient. Of course, the deeper depths that we got, we would, it would prolong future dredge episodes. And the dredging will be faster, more efficient, and more effective to dredge while after the docks have been demoed. However, the actual construction costs and the costs for, in addition to the additional cost for permitting and core sampling, the actual construction costs could be considerably higher if we were unable to take advantage of the maintenance dredging areas for disposal. This disposal sites for what is considered maintenance dredging may be, depending on how the sediment tests, whether it tests to be clean or not, may be within the bay. The deepening would most likely be offshore.
Okay. I'm going to open this up to public comment. This is for item number 11, and I see one hand raised, Mr. Olam.
Thank you for allowing me to speak to this. Thank you for allowing me to speak to this topic. Per your staff, you have done absolutely no study to determine what actually the market will support on replacing docks 12, 13, and 14. Also, I noticed in the Moffitt Nickel report that on option 2, they specifically say that that was needed to better accommodate the larger vessels that will occupy the replacement docks. So they've already apparently have an impression of how big the vessels are going to be, how big the docks are going to be. Has this been decided? I thought you were still trying to figure out what would actually work. As you know, you're an enterprise district. You're investing money that does not belong to you. It belongs to the people of San Mateo County. And you're expected to invest it into projects that will, pay for themselves or at least come close. But apparently you have no idea what the market will bear, what kind of rent you will have to charge in order to recoup the money that you've invested and have enough money on hand to replace these docks in 30 years when they need to be replaced again. As you know, you've got a lot of infrastructure that needs to be replaced, and there isn't any money set aside for any of it. I'm trying to figure out where your plan is going to come up with to correct that and start having money available and put into accounts to replace infrastructure as it gets older, so that we don't end up with a report that shows all kinds of infrastructure with only 2 to 5 or 0 to 2 or 5 to 10 years left to go. I think that should cover it. But again, I have not seen any study. Don't know if you intend to do some. Trying to figure out how it is you're going to spend this money logically. Are you just winging it? Thanks. Bye. Please mute.
Thank you. I'm opening up to to commissioner comments now. Commissioner Reiering, it looks like you're off mute and your hand is up.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to authorize the general manager to approve a change order motion A.
Second.
So let me just make this very clear. The change order is for alternative A, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, and I guess let's open this up for commissioner discussion. There's a motion by Commissioner Reiering and a second by Commissioner Mateusz. Any comments from commissioners? Commissioner Zemke?
Yes, I would like to make a comment. This seems to be the most logical one to me. I too am concerned kind of going forward with making sure we live within the resources that we have, and would feel more comfortable going with more of a maintenance approach rather than deepening approach.
Any other commissioner comments? I still have public comment open, and I see that we have one hand raised from Mr. Johnny Chandler. So I'll take that public comment at this time. Mr. Chandler?
Sorry, that hand was raised for an earlier comment, so I apologize. I tried to take it down and I guess it didn't work.
Okay, no problem. Are there any other commissioner comments? Seeing none, why don't we do a roll call, please, Melanie?
Commissioner Reiering,
Aye.
Commissioner Mateusz,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
President Chankarali.
Aye. So that motion carries. And now we are on to item 12, which is to have the board president consider assignment of a commissioner to the Harbor Master Selection Committee. So let me just make it clear that the motion would be to recommend that the board president assign basically a harbor commissioner to participate in the selection committee for a new harbor master at Oyster Point Marina. Mr. Moran, it looks like this staff report is on you. So if you'd like to just give a brief overview, that would be fantastic.
Oyster Point Marina Harbor Master Jim Merlo, who's been with the district for over 18 years, has decided to retire and has submitted his resignation effective September 24th. We're all very sad to lose Jim, but he has worked very hard throughout his tenure with the district and has earned his retirement. We all hope the best for him in his future endeavors. As a result of Jim's retirement, the harbor master position at Oyster Point Marina will become vacant. Staff has already begun preparation to fill this impending vacancy. In the past, a board member has been assigned to the selection committee, along with upper management staff and an outside professional. Staff requests the board president to consider assigning a harbor commissioner willing to take on this task. The selection committee will meet several times via Zoom to discuss process, review applications received, and conduct initial interviews in preparation for a final in-person interview. Once the best suited candidate has been decided upon, a recommendation will be made to the general manager. Staff recommends the board president consider assigning a harbor commissioner to participate in the selection committee for a new harbor master at Oyster Point Marina.
Thank you. So, let me just say let me ask, is there a motion to recommend that the board president, who is me, assign a harbor commissioner to participate in the selection committee for a new harbor master at Oyster Point Marina?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any other discussion?
I'd just like to bring up that one of the boat people at Oyster Point did request that someone be appointed from that area to sit on that selection committee as well. And otherwise, I'm in favor of this.
Okay, so let's do a vote to basically have the board president, me, make that assignment. Melanie, roll call, please.
Commissioner Mateusz,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
President Shane Corrali,
Aye.
Commissioner Ryring.
Aye.
Thank you. That motion carries. And so I would like to appoint Commissioner Bill Zemke to be part of the selection committee for a new harbor master at Oyster Point Marina. So Bill, not to add another thing to your plate, I don't think that we have to vote on this because that's the president's discretion based on the motion that was passed. We'd be honored to have you represent the board as the commissioner to be on the selection committee. So I hope you say yes.
Thank you for that vote of confidence. I am willing to do it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you. So John and Jim, Commissioner Zemke is the Harbor Commission's representative for the selection committee for the harbor master for Oyster Point Marina.
Great. And to Tom's suggestion, the general manager is already looking at selecting an outside professional from South San Francisco. So, of course, it's going to depend on the professional's availability and willingness, but we're going to do our best.
Well, that's in addition to Commissioner Zemke. I mean, we're still going to have a selection committee.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay.
Just as like I said in the staff report, we're going to have upper management staff, myself and Julie, and then Commissioner Zemke. Thank you very much. In addition, we're going to have an outside professional that we're going to
perfect.
Get, potentially from the city of South San Francisco.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So moving on to item 13, which is amending chapter 3.15 of San Mateo County Harbor District Ordinance Code to ensure safety of private moorings. Mr. Moran, can you like to give us?
Yeah, this motion is to direct staff to publish a notice in a newspaper of general circulation within the district for not less than 20 days prior to ordinance code amendment adoption and place the resolution to amend the mooring regulations ordinance code section 3.15 for consideration on the agenda for the August 18, 2021 regular board meeting. Historically, the district has allowed individuals to obtain permits to install private use mooring balls attached to permittees' their own permanent anchors in accordance with chapter 3.1 or 3.15 mooring regulation of the district ordinance code. The private installation of the mooring anchors was not regulated, and as a result, many permittees have used any heavy items such as car engines and concrete blocks as anchors. Since these private mooring balls are not professionally installed or regularly maintained, boats tied to them often detach during storms. This has led to boats breaking free and wrecking on shore or damaging other moored vessels. In addition, many of the currently permitted private mooring balls are left unattended for many months, causing a hazard to navigation as the anchors drag, move around the harbor, and unsuspecting vessels get the propellers caught in them. Staff ceased issuing new private mooring permits because mooring outside of the district-owned, operated, and maintained mooring field was deemed hazardous to navigation and the environment. In addition, private mooring balls are unnecessary since the district has now professionally installed and maintains 37 mooring balls for daily monthly rent, 23 of which are currently available for use. Should a need for additional moorings arise, the district could install more in the same mooring field area. Staff recommends the board consider the amendment to the ordinance code attached as Exhibit A, which has been reviewed by District Council to prohibit issuance of new private mooring ball permits altogether and begin the phase out of private mooring balls. Those existing private mooring permits in good standing can continue to be used by the original permittee pending proof of annual inspection. The existing permits cannot be transferred to other parties, subleased, or used by vessel not registered to the permit holder. If existing permittees fail to pay fees or utilize a private mooring ball for 3 consecutive months, the district shall cancel the permit upon reasonable notice and remove the mooring ball. Staff recommends that the board direct staff to provide notice regarding the proposed amendment of Chapter 3.15 of San Mateo County Harbor District Ordinance Code to ensure safety of private moorings to read as attached in Exhibit A and return to the board August 18, 2021 for adoption of the amendment to the ordinance code.
Great. So I see Commissioner Matoush's hand up. Commissioner Matoush?
I would like to move to direct staff to publish a notice in a newspaper of general circulation within the district for not less than 20 days prior to ordinance code amendment adoption, and place a resolution to amend the mooring regulations ordinance code section 3.15 for consideration on the agenda for the August 18th, 2021 regular board meeting. In addition, I'd like to give you a little history on why I'm supporting this.
Okay, well, let me ask for a second to your motion first, and then you can make your commissioner comment on this, Commissioner Matoush. Is there a second to Commissioner Matoush's motion?
I will second that.
We'll both second.
Okay. Commissioner Zemke, I saw Commissioner Wiring's hand first, so I'm going to take her second. Okay, Commissioner Matoush, you're on for your thoughts.
I can't tell you how much safer the harbor will be like this. I can tell you personally stories since I've been here for about 30 years. Kids would go out diving in the outer harbor and they'd think, oh, wow, I found an anchor. Man, look at this anchor I found. And then I come back and I hear somebody with a few curse words, somebody stole my anchor. I know where I had my mooring. And there's been amazing stories like that of moorings breaking, people picking up anchors and thinking, hey, they're free because they weren't maintained. And I totally welcome this idea of trying to get some type of regulation and standard to mooring these boats. It's a serious situation. Every time we have a storm, we see some of the homemade anchor boats blow up, as was mentioned. So this is something that definitely it makes the harbor safer for all of us.
Thanks, Captain Tom. Any other commissioner comments?
Yeah, Virginia, I just had a quick question.
Sure.
Do we have an estimate of how many of these pre-existing private mooring balls exist out there?
John?
Yeah, we've got about 30.
About 30, okay.
Not all of them, again, are even being used. We've got about 30 that are being paid for.
Okay. Thanks.
Commissioner Wiring? Any comments? No pressure.
No.
Okay, so I just want to thank Tricia Ortiz for looking at this and working with staff regarding this ordinance. Thank you very much. If there are no more commissioner comments, let's do a roll call, please.
Commissioner Zemke?
Aye.
President Shane Crawley?
Aye.
Commissioner Wiring?
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush?
Aye.
So that motion carries. Thank you, John, and thank you, Tricia, for a job well done. So now we're at item E for commissioner comments. Each commissioner can make a comment on, what you're doing or anything you'd like for 2 minutes. So anyone have any commissioner comments?
I guess I can make some comments.
Please, Commissioner Zimke.
Thanks to John for doing a good job in presenting the staff reports today. It worked very well, I think. Just for the commission's information, I hope to be traveling to Germany starting on the 1st of August for 12 days, fingers crossed that everything works well. So I will not be able to make the second workshop meeting, I think, which is on the 10th.
Okay. Commissioner Matoush, I see your hand raised.
A couple things. Commercial fishermen asked me to mention the need for cameras in the harbor, as his truck has been keyed 3 times at a cost of $900 per incident to fix. I know we've talked about cameras and the need for Wi-Fi there. I just wanted to mention that again. Additionally, in the commercial activity permits that we approved, for instance, there was a District Ordinance 5.10.010.E that says the district may not issue commercial activity permits for more than 16 inspected small passenger vessels and 6 uninspected small passenger vessels at Pillar Point Harbor without first determining the impact of said additional permits on the district's facilities and the surrounding communities. I believe that language is dated, and should staff find time or legal find time to look at that, I think it's going to be a long time before we'd ever see 16 large vessels. So it may be just something to address and modernize if we run out of things to do.
Yes.
Commissioner Ryring, this is just commissioner comments for now.
No, well, I'll just thank John for running the meeting today. Thank you very much. It's nice to see you, hear you.
Me too. Thank you, John, for some really great updates and reports. Thank you, thank you. And please thank the staff. And Tricia, thanks for your help as well. I don't see Julie, but I know she's always behind the scenes doing a lot of great work to make sure that our financial health is good. So thank you to staff again. Now we're on item F, which is future agenda items. Commissioner Ryring, I see your hand raised.
I'd like to see a future discussion on tsunami preparedness. I see our role in that as being one of helping the county disseminate the information that they have compiled. They do research, but I don't know if the other commissioners agree with me on that. I am interested in having a discussion on how we can help make the county more aware, just maybe through our website, linking to county maps. You know, how old are the county maps? Are they up to date? And we could also post and disseminate to the public information via our social media.
Okay.
I can just interject real quick,
Sure.
Nancy. We do have a tsunami page on our website where we do direct or link to the county's tsunami inundation preparedness, immediate action recommendations, et cetera. And just FYI, Harbor Master at Pillar Point, Chris Tibby, is today starting at 1 p.m. When our meeting started here, he is attending a county tsunami emergency response meeting as well.
Oh, that's great. John, so where is that on our website?
There's, I believe it is just under, gosh, Melanie, do you know right off? It's under the...
Perhaps you could just send Commissioner Ryring a note.
I can send you a link to it, Nancy. I'd have to look for it, right?
Okay, great. So is it your feeling that we don't need to have a discussion?
No, we can always do more.
I would,
I think it'd be good. Yeah.
I would support Commissioner Ryring's idea to have a discussion about tsunami preparedness. I was on the Tsunami Preparedness Committee for a while, and I have updates, but this isn't the time and place to discuss those.
Okay, yeah, if we're already doing something, I'm not even really that aware of it. So I think it'd be good maybe to, if the staff could let us know what we currently are doing, and we could discuss that, see if we think we need to do something more, or just, kind of keep on top of it every now and then. I think that would be helpful.
Okay. So there is a motion to put that on the agenda for August 18th. Is that what you're thinking, Commissioner Ryring?
If staff has the bandwidth to do that, there's no rush.
Okay.
Under Harbor District Emergency Preparedness, we've got a section on tsunamis, National Tsunami Warning Center, and our
Okay.
our
John, I
tsunami
just put
information with regard to the counties all on there as well.
John, I just put the link on our webpage on the chat.
Thank you.
We've got a little box that says 2021 tsunami preparedness.
I see.
I'll send you the link.
Yeah, no, I see it now.
Okay.
Well, I do think that there is a motion on the table by Commissioner Ryring, and I think a second by Commissioner Mateusz.
Correct.
Okay. So, and let's finish the discussion. I think I may have interrupted you inadvertently, Commissioner Zemke. Did you have anything to add? I have something after you.
No, I think this is a timely subject. I was just contemplating the impact of tsunamis walking around downtown Crescent City last week. So, which was hit fairly hard by the 1964 tsunami. So, yeah, good. It's a good timely topic.
You probably saw that massive tetrapod that was dislodged at Crescent City.
Yes, I was amazed at that huge piece of concrete being moved by the force of the wave.
Wow. Well, can I add to something to part of this discussion, Nancy?
Yeah, of course.
And actually, Tom, I mean, it's just in light of emergency preparedness in general. I mean, I guess we're looking at the tsunami, kind of what we're doing in our policies and that kind of thing, how we're, what we, I guess, are following rules and who we're working with. But I also know, and John, correct me if I'm wrong, or I don't know if Chris Tibby's on the line. I think I saw him as an attendee. But I know that we have lessees who, live aboards, and we have tenants. And so I know that Coastside CERT has, and I think Battalion Chief, I don't think he's a battalion chief, well, Chief Cosgrave of Coastside Fire. Actually, they have a pretty robust CERT program, and I don't know if this is even appropriate. I mean, in terms of tsunami, but in terms of emergency preparedness, it might be something that we might want to get Chief Cosgrave to possibly give us an update on what they're doing, just with, our tenants and our liveaboards. If anything, I don't even know. So I just want an update on how we're being prepared, and not just the tenants, but even our staff. I mean, the harbor master's office is there. Like I said, maybe harbor master Tibby has a better idea. So Chris, if you want to chime in here, if I'm kind of going overboard, or if you think that it's a good idea to have Chief Cosgrave, kind of give an update, or even the volunteers or someone who's the head of Coastside CERT. I mean, I just don't know where we are, but I do think that our tenants and our liveaboard tenants, or retail tenants and liveaboard tenants, should be made aware of the preparedness efforts that are happening.
I believe all that would come out in the report.
Sorry?
I believe all that would come out in a report detailing our preparedness, and we have a motion and a second.
Right, but I don't know if Chris wants to give, do you have any additional comments?
I would just say, Virginia, real quick, that
Okay.
that's what I meant was Chris was at a CERT meeting right now. The
Oh,
meeting
okay,
started.
sorry.
The meeting started at 1 o'clock, so we attend
Okay.
those monthly. You know, and it is a
Yeah,
county
Okay.
emergency response agency team that addresses evacuations, etc. In fact, we were just discussing the potential that we would, in case of fires, during the fire season here, that we would maybe be an evacuation site for some livestock.
yeah,
if
the
possible.
large animals. Right?
But they also, of course, discuss the tsunamis. So
Yeah.
we will look at giving an update to the board and potentially having a guest speaker. That's great.
Okay, that'd be great. I'd love to hear what Chief Cosgrave has to say, or I think Cynthia Sherrill, who is a super volunteer for Coastside CERT, either one. But I think that to include that in this report or this discussion item would be great. So let's vote on the motion if there's no further discussion. Melanie, roll call, please.
President Chang Crowley,
Aye.
Commissioner Ryring,
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke.
Aye.
Okay, so that motion carries. Commissioner Matoush?
Since item G is for information only, I'd like to make a move to adjourn this meeting.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Roll call, please, Melanie.
Commissioner Ryring,
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
President Chang Crowley.
Aye. So this meeting is adjourned at 2:57. Thank you, everyone, for being here, and to all the public members for participating. Thank you, thank you.
Safe travels, Bill.
Right, thanks.
Yes, safe travels, Bill. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.